there, you're tuning in to the 79th episode of the Audible Weed podcast. This is Nina welcoming you. You're also tuning in to a very special occasion. Today is the 52nd Earth Day. Now, I had a very different way of starting this podcast, but, I have to tell you my experience of Earth Day as I was coming to do this podcast. As I was running late, as I often am running late. And so what happened is I was rushing to grab my bike key. And as I grabbed it, I found a small baby keelback snake, which has snuck in and was really startled by my, action. So I kind of slowed down a bit so as not to make it nervous. I was hoping that it can find its way out, slither its way out the same way it has come in. In order to give it space, I did told the snake a couple of shoes and, find your way kind of thing. And then I couldn't see the snake anymore. So I thought, okay, it's time to go. By then, I was also receiving a message from the radio group asking me whether I'm coming at all or not. So I responded to that message and rushed out. And as I rushed out, outside the door, I found the little mongoose, which has taken to living quite close by. I hadn't seen it a couple of days, and it's bobbed its face up. I think it's her. It's kind of lifted its face to have a look, and I kind of said hello to the mongoose and rushed to the bike. And by then, I'm really, really late. So as I was reaching the bike, there was a big startling commotion. There was a lot of leaf litters rustled, and then before I could realize something was running away, and I could see the tail end of it. It's a monitor lizard, and right now it is not a baby anymore. At the same time, it's not full grown anymore. I have a history with this monitor lizard. This has been around since its babyhood. In the past, it wanted to stay indoors. So it, tapped my door in a window and wanted to come in. Then one day, I don't know how, it had snuck into my bedroom. And as I walked in, I think it didn't realize what is inside. It was like a dream come true, but it didn't want to be inside. So it was desperately trying to get out. And in its nervousness, and it's of course a baby monitor lizard, so everything it was toppling down, and more things it was toppling down, more nervous it had become. So I had quite a task of escorting it out, and I know that it has never tried to come in again, but it kind of hangs around at the house. So I thought, wow, it's a good day with a good start on my way to deliver my podcast on the Earth Day. So there are 2 Earth Days. Yes, one declared by the UN on the 21st March, coinciding with the solstice, the spring solstice. But at the same time, the large part of the northern hemisphere, where most of the countries are located in the world, are still experiencing winter days at that time. So the second Earth Day became more practical in practice, and that one is on the 22nd April. But both of them were first observed in 1970. So this is a really difficult podcast for me. I was actually thinking maybe I shouldn't even talk about Earth Day, because whatever I focus on will be incomplete and inadequate. Then I thought, let me just act. Being in climate and earth action is the only thing that I know I can do, and you and I can do, so that whatever is possible by us, if we can do, we move a lot of things, we influence a lot of things, and hopefully we make a difference. I have known environmentalists who happily will buy diesel cars instead of petrol. I have some views on the EV, electric vehicle, which comes with a certain caveat for me. But anyway, so I have heard people telling, justifying their purchase of diesel vehicle, stating everyone is doing so. So hence there is, no need to act differently. And what can one person do? There is an effect. Petrol with, whether it has immediate effect that you can see or not, one person has an effect. The Earth Day celebration itself is a reminder of that. Millions of people have participated on the Earth Day, on the very first one in 1970, which literally was started by one person. Let me tell you that story. Two actually, because there are two Earth Days. The first one was initiated by John McConnell. He was from Iowa, a traveling physician, someone who had worked with Alfred Nobel of the Nobel Laboratory to set up the first plastic factory also, and was dismayed by its polluting effects and raised concern right then. He did a million things like, organize a million meal program for the underprivileged. A devout Christian himself, he believed that the earth and its resources is for everyone to share and not to grab or hoard. Along with the celebration of life on Earth, he intended Earth Day to alert people about the need for preserving and renewing the threatened and ecological balance. The proposal won strong support and was followed by an Earth Day proclamation by the city of San Francisco on 1st of March 1970, and it was called Honor the Earth. And the first celebration of the Earth Day was on the March 21st, 1970. But he didn't stop there. He kind of raised his voice, trying to, include and reach out to world leaders. And in June 1970, 36 world leaders, including the UN Secretary General, had signed a pledge towards looking after the Earth. We haven't done a very good job of it, of course, but that was done. The spring equinox on 21st March was proclaimed as the Earth Day by the UN. The second person who was instrumental in for the Earth Day declaration was Senator Gaylord Nelson of Wisconsin. Inspired by the anti-war movement, he wanted to use that energy to raise public consciousness about air and water pollution and the need for the environment protection. He too had to, work hard for months together. After working with a core team, which, include people from across the party line, he, I think, Republican, Democrat, and that included scientist, artist, activist. On April 22nd, 1970, he had organized marches across the U.S. There were 20 million people participated in those marches in raising their voice for clean air, clean water, and environmental protection. This massive coast-to-coast rally brought more awareness, and by the end of 1970, Earth Day was responsible for creation of United States Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, and a passage to the Clean Air, Clean Water, and Endangered Species Act. These three acts had influenced the environmental movement across the world, and regulations and acts, similar regulation and acts were adopted in other countries. Even if our action does not have the obvious external ripple effect that we desire for, worry not. Rest assured, it will have an immense goodwill and effect on people around us, within us, and where it matters most. Most importantly, it will have an effect on the nature, who are not, probably can send you a note and click a like in your social network. Now, enough of history. Let's turn back to some of the Earth Day work around us. We are screening the 17th Ecofilm Fest this week from 16th to 22nd April. Yesterday's film was called The Fat Fiction. It is said that that's something I have heard from Dr. B, who is our Ayurveda in Audible and other naturopaths before. The movie had said many things, but what stuck to me is that adult humans do not need carbohydrates, but protein and fat are essential macronutrients. Apart from these, along with the macronutrients from the various sources, including our wild weedy and other greens, what makes a complete and healthy diet. So I set out to do some fact checking. Do we need carbohydrates to survive? The answer I got is no. Carbohydrates is the only macronutrient that has no minimum daily requirement. I don't think it is possible to have absolutely none on a diet of real food, as there will be some carbs in most foods, even if there are trace amounts. This is what one of the nutritionist states. Our body can manufacture glucose as needed in the liver in a process called gluconeogenesis. What about the other macronutrients, fat and protein? Nutritionist Michael Larson writes, human needs essential amino acids to survive. Proteins are made from essential amino acids. Hence, humans need protein to survive. Humans also need essential fatty acids to survive. Essential fatty acids are what makes up fats and fat cells. He goes on to say, humans do not have any essential carbohydrates. While carbohydrates are the most efficient form of energy for the body to digest and utilize, in their absence, the body will break down proteins and fats to create what the body needs for energy. Without essential amino acids and essential fatty acids, the human body will die. So, carbohydrates, so the question is, what are the sources of the proteins and fats? But before that, if somebody is doing a lot of physical work, carbohydrates are basically, energy which we don't need to produce. It's already available in a way. It's easy energy. So if somebody has a lot of physical activity to do, perhaps, they can burn out that carbohydrate easily. But otherwise, less carbohydrate is a good idea, because then the body will try to produce its own energy by breaking down fat and protein. So, which would be a little more efficient than eating a lot of carbohydrate. And if you don't burn it out, then what? So the question is, what are the sources of these proteins and fats? Animal protein, I read, and actually I have read this before also as an argument in favor of animal protein, that it provides the all essential amino acids that our body needs. Animal products provide the highest quality of protein sources, but then we have also more recently have known that plant-based proteins are healthier, and in addition to everything else, they also provide fibers. But then our plant-based amino acids, can plant-based diet provides all and complete amino acids? So it seems vegans can also eat keto, which is ketosis, by relying on high-fat plant-based products like coconut oil, avocados, seeds, nuts. The vegan keto diet is a low-carb, high-fat, moderate protein diet that excludes all animal-based food. But I thought, well, what if I don't want, so much high-fat food, but I want to get my, my protein, instead of moderate protein, I want all and complete amino acids from my vegan diet. Is that possible? I found that a crop research institute for semi-arid tropics, ICRISAT, did a research and found that millet, which are actually not just carbohydrate, it has carbohydrate, but also has protein and other other nutrients. So it's a millet and legume blend makes complete protein. It provides complete amino acids that the body can get, and it is healthier in that way than animal protein, which also provides complete set of amino acids required. So the millet, legume, and wild weedy plants make a wonderful, filling, and healthy meal that is good for you and good for the planet. Eating the right food, sourcing the food sustainably, wasting less is part of the climate and earth action. To that end, let me share a simple recipe with you. It's a recipe of millet and wheat tabbouleh. Tabbouleh is a West Asian food traditionally, and it uses quite a bit of parsley. This is something that it is available here, but it is not grown so easily around here, definitely not in summer. So if you're not kind of attached to this idea that your tabbouleh must smell of and have parsley, then you can actually have a non-parsley tabbouleh also. And this is what I actually provide you with the recipe. So the ingredients are 2/3 cup of or 140 grams of dry millet. I recommend using thinai, what is called foxtail millet. Cook it like you would cook unpolished rice and set it aside. Juice of 1 large lemon, and juice, we need about 3 to 4 tablespoons. 1/4 cup of high quality extra cold pressed oil that you use. It's important that it's cold pressed oil, irrespective of the oil you're using. 1/4 cup of 1 clove of garlic, this minced or grated. 1 cup of chopped tomato. 1 cup of cucumber diced without the seeds, ideally, if you are using matured cucumber. But if the cucumbers you're using are young, like right now you can get nice, fresh cucumbers, you do not need to bother to take out the seeds. You can just chop it up. But if you're using a matured cucumber, make sure that they are not bitter. Then 2-3 packed cup of edible greens. Greens, whatever you find that are edible, that can be eaten raw. You can take young punnangani, young joyweeds, leaves of gangetic primrose, young ivy gourd leaves, and you can take a mixture of this. But it has to be 2 to 3 packed. Don't eat the ones which are kind of borderline and which shouldn't be eaten raw. Which requires a pre-processing. Don't use those. Use those which can be eaten raw in salad. So 1/4 cup of mint leaves. Instead of mint leaves, you can, if you're not using parsley, you can use Thai basil leaves. That also gives very nice fragrance. Then 3 to 5 green onions, thinly sliced. If you do not have that, then use 3 to 5 young sambar shallot, thinly sliced. And 1 teaspoon of salt to taste. You can add more or less. If you are really somebody who wants the parsley in it, you can put a bunch of parsley finely chopped. If you don't have fresh parsley, you can put a few dried parsley. If you're using dried parsley, perhaps it will be good to soak it in the lemon juice along with the garlic. So combine the lemon juice, oil and garlic and parsley, dried parsley if you're using, together in a small bowl and set it aside as the millet is cooking. This actually kind of marinates the garlic. It doesn't have the strong taste after if you soak it in this way, if you marinate it. So when the millet is cooked, let it cool down because you have already, I started with, cooking the millet and setting it aside. So once it's cooled down to room temperature, you add all the ingredients together and mix it well. Leave it for 10 minutes and serve it cool. It's very simple, isn't it? There you go. You have a packed ketosis meal. It is wild, weedy, wonderful, has all the macro and micronutrients that you need. Have a great Earth Day and wish we always remain in earth action. I will see you next week. Until then, stay well and stay safe.